I've never had an issue with my video. I am so sorry, everyone.
Yeah, I think
No
we are
worries.
up and running.
All good. Sorry,
Yeah, you can start the video.
I can start. Oh, perfect. Would you be able to make me and Carolyn and Britt a co-host?
Yeah,
One.
yeah.
Perfect. I will just go ahead and share this quick video. And let me know if you guys can hear it okay.
Thank you for attending the Vancouver Island Virtual Roadshow presented by the Connector Society. This event is sponsored by Capital Daily and Pattison Media's various Nanaimo radio stations. As a reminder, this event is being streamed and recorded to the Disability Foundation YouTube channel. Feel free to turn off your camera if you are not comfortable being recorded. For some quick housekeeping rules, please mute yourself during the presentation unless called on or instructed by the presenter. To ask a question, you can either type it into the chat box or unmute yourself at the end of the presentation. During this event, we have automatic closed captioning available. Please go to the bottom of the Zoom meeting, click Live Transcript, and then Show Subtitles to turn them on. Before we begin, we'd like to take a quick moment to let you know how you can join an opinion research panel made specifically for British Columbians living with disabilities. For 25 years, the Disability Foundation has been fostering meaningful experiences for Canadians with disabilities through outdoor recreation, social connectedness, innovative adaptive devices, and more. Today, we are asking, how has the pandemic affected you? Help strengthen decision makers' understanding of your needs and experiences by joining an online opinion research panel consisting solely of people with disabilities and their caregivers. Make a difference in your community today. The Disability Foundation. Reimagine what is possible.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch that short introductory video. And with that, I'd love to pass it along to our presenters for today, Britt and Carolyn.
Hello, we're very excited to be here, and we have a PowerPoint presentation for you with a video in it as well. So I'm wondering if I can just share my screen and get the presentation up here. So give me 1 second. Okay, and can everyone see that okay?
Looks great.
And I'm just trying to maximize it. Great. So Carolyn, can you hear us okay?
I can. I again apologize for my video not working. If anyone has any sweet, quick troubleshooting things for video, please let me know. You can add it to the chat and I'll see if I can follow along. But I won't let that slow down our presentation. So thank you very much for inviting us to share a little bit about the programs and services that we offer. And just as before we get started, I want to introduce myself. So my name is Carolyn. I use she and her pronouns. And I've been with Power to Be for 7.5 years, and I've worn a couple of different hats along the way. I actually started as a volunteer. So I volunteered with Power to Be for a few years and then found myself as an employee, and I feel very grateful. I started out as a coordinator, and I've made my way to overseeing a lot of our program delivery over in Victoria. And Britt, want to share a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so my name's Britt, and I also started as a volunteer with Power to Be. I was volunteering back in 2013, and it's just been an organization that has always really stuck with me, and I've just loved what they've done for so many years. And so I'm a new staff member, and I am the community development lead, and very excited to be a part of a team that feels like a family.
Wonderful. Thanks, Britt. So Power to Be has been around since 1998, and we have a home here in Victoria as well as an office in Vancouver. So we do service Vancouver and the North Shore, and they move all around, accessing different wild spaces around Vancouver. And then here in Victoria, some of you may be familiar with, we have a site out at Prospect Lake. So it used to be a golf course, and the owners are incredible. And they said, we don't want to develop this land. We want to partner with a different organization that's going to help promote the natural space that's there. And we're very fortunate to lease that space from them at a very reasonable amount. And we are developing a building out there. So I can speak more to that in a little bit. But what do we do? Really, our main goal is to get people outside, to connect with themselves, to connect with each other, and to connect with the natural world. And we do that through a variety of different activities, everything from getting out on the water, whether it's paddleboarding, kayaking, canoeing, to exploring the land, getting to know the flora and fauna, hiking, mountains. We just want people to have access to those spaces.
And why do we do it? Like Carolyn was saying, we really believe that everyone belongs in nature, and we want to provide accessibility. There's so many benefits to being in the natural world, to the physical body, the metaphysical body, and it really just offers a lot of healing. So we want to provide that fundamental right to folks to get into nature. And now we have a video to share. So Sasha, with your tech skills, I'm hoping that you can help me out with the audio.
Of course. When you shared your screen, there should have been a checkbox that said share audio.
Okay.
As well. We can press play and see if the audio is coming through, and if not, then we can just do a new share, and then it should work as long as that box was checked. But yeah, let's test it out once to see if it goes through.
Rides a gondola up a mountain.
Can you hear it?
Build dirt power to be.
Okay, and I was just gonna try and make it larger, but I don't think I can. So is this okay? Can everybody see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Participant.
Before I lost my vision, I was involved in a lot of outdoor sports. So when my vision was getting worse, I found that I wasn't able to do many of those things that I loved. I want to find a way to get back into it.
My name is Bill.
And I didn't really know how to do it by myself.
Good work, everyone.
I cannot describe the feeling where depression kind of set in and had no clue how I was going to manage the future. Hope was dimming. When Power to Be came along, it was sort of an answer to prayer, because they showed me how I could do it.
The title is Animals That Were Used by...
And so they gave me the confidence to do something that I thought would be almost impossible for me to do. It's phenomenal in the sense that it brings me back to nature. I've always loved to be in the mountains, in the trees and the hiking in the forest, and just take in the wonder, a moment of peace.
Text YVR Beyond every day. Power to Be. Everyone belongs in nature. Donate at powertobe.ca/you belong.
So that was just an example of one of our great participants. And that video was made in partnership with YVR and also the Sea to Sky Gondola. And as you could see in it, there was a woman in a green shirt as well, and she was one of our volunteers. So that's an example of a program where we would take people into the natural world and have the supports in place around them. So our next slide.
Great. So who do we support? Really, we support people of all ages and abilities. I'd say typically we see individuals who are 7 and older. I think as young as 7, although we have been doing a lot of family-based programming, which includes siblings that are younger than 7, and that's fine. And we, I think kayaking, the oldest individual that we've taken is about 85 out kayaking with us. So really, we're open to all ages. And then this is just a snapshot of the individuals that we've served last year. And where they are coming from with their different abilities. And yeah, so feel free if you have, at the end, if you have any questions around their demographics, happy to answer that. All right, so our programs are currently divided into 3 main streams. And under our adaptive recreation umbrella term, if you will, we have our open adventure program. And open adventure is open to all ages and all abilities. That we provide a calendar. So once you've done an intake with us, we provide a calendar of different opportunities, and we encourage our participants to sign up for what they're interested in. So everything from hiking to climbing to nature immersion to mindfulness activities. Really, we want people to show their interest, like be interested in the activity that we're doing, as well as be okay with stepping out of their comfort zone a little bit, challenging themselves to try something new. So they receive the calendar, they sign up for the activities that they like to, and then we welcome them to the site. Another one, an event that we have is called a Have a Go event. So I should say a lot of these programs we're talking about is a little bit pre-COVID times. We all had to adapt our service delivery during COVID times, really our entire lives during the pandemic. So we are getting back to a lot of these programming options moving into the fall. So we are speaking to pre-COVID times, but we are getting back there, and we really hope to encourage new people to come out. And one of the ways we do is through our Have a Go program. So it is a day that we host out at Prospect Lake, and everyone in the community is welcome. You want to come experience some of our activities, please come on out and give it a try. Really, we want to know if it's a good fit for you, and how we can, make some accommodations or adaptations to get you encouraged to try different activities. So stay tuned from our website and social media about upcoming Have a Go days moving forward. And then thirdly, we all adapted to this wonderful virtual land. And so we have been providing a lot of different virtual programs for our community as well, all with a nature-based theme. So everything from exploring some of our national parks virtually to what you can do in your local neighborhood, even exploring nature in your own backyard. So we hope to continue to have those offerings available in the fall, knowing that everyone's comfortability with coming out of this pandemic is going to be different. And we want to be able to provide services to people wherever they're at in that spectrum.
And our next stream is the Wilderness School, which is a very cool group of youth that get specifically recruited, and they are in grades 8 to 10, and they live with financial or social barriers. And so Wilderness School has all sorts of awesome activities. For example, I just saw them out yesterday preparing for a solo on Prospect Lake, and they were discussing some options, whether they wanted to do a 4-hour solo in the forest or an overnight. So it's a great way for them to build connection with each other, community, build confidence in themselves and in the wilderness as well. And next we have our community group stream. And this is a way for us to connect with all the local community groups around Victoria and Vancouver. And for example, some of the groups are Islands Kids Cancer Association, Intercultural Association, and it's a way for Power to Be to provide resources for those folks to get into the natural world, whether that be through canoeing or kayaking or different hiking trips. And another project that we have is called Catalyst for Good. And the name really explains it. It is a launch pad for any sort of program that brings good to the community, whether that is an environmental program or a social justice program. For example, when the pandemic hit and we had a lot of lockdowns in early March 2020, we partnered with Backpack Buddies to deliver school lunches to folks' houses because kids were in lockdown rather than in school. So there is a lot that can come from Catalyst for Good, and it's really very new to us. So we're figuring out how that fits into the community. And then another thing that is new to us is random acts of nature. And because a lot of folks are really interested in working with Power to Be, there is a wait list. So with random acts of nature, people don't have to go through our intake process. Instead, they get to come on kind of like a pilot program with us. And it's very participant-centered and personalized to fit the needs of the individuals and the families. So, for example, I just got to go kayaking with a family of 3 last week, and they just choose the activity. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure. And next, over to Carolyn.
Great. So where we explore. So as I had mentioned, we are based out of Victoria and Vancouver. And we have a home. We have a home now that we're building out at Prospect Lake, but we want to continue to be mobile because we live in one of the most incredible places in the world, and we have access to so many green spaces and parks and ocean. Like the beaches that we have here are, right at our fingertips. So we don't want to have people just access nature at our site. We want to maintain that we can go around and create independence in individuals to access those spaces outside of when they're with Power to Be. So everywhere from all up the island to where else have we kayaked? The Broaden Islands. We've done Desolation Sound. We've gone to all the Gulf Islands and camped and explored there. So, and we're always up for new ideas depending on where our participants are interested in going. So as I had mentioned, our new site at Prospect Lake, we're currently in the process of building a new site, a new home for us. So that is a beautiful center that's going to be built. We have access to 77 acres on the site. So that is a lot of forest. We've built about 5 kilometers worth of trails, as well as a beautiful accessible loop around the front area. So really, we have way more than we can handle, and we want to share that with the community. So this is going to be a space for everyone to come, from our community partners to other organizations doing similar or different work. We really want to make sure that it's a community hub for everyone. And yeah, as I had mentioned, we continue to explore lots of different areas around us. And again, based on what our participants are interested in, they really are guiding us where we need to go. And I think the next slide is just as a map of highlighting some of the locations that we have accessed over the last year or 2 years, I should say, some during COVID and some pre-COVID, obviously keeping it local when we needed to. But you can just see the variety of places that we like to go and play in.
And next, you've been hearing Carolyn and I just mention some of the awesome activities that we get to do on our programs. Everything from the surf to the snow and even rock climbing. So yeah, we love to, as it showed on the map, get up to Strathcona and even out to Tofino. And there's so much around the South Island and the Gulf Islands. So we do a big variety of things, and we also get to use a lot of different tools to get people out doing these activities. So pictured here in the bottom pictures, you can see our Trail Rider, which is such a cool tool to get folks up mountains, on, you know, rough trails with rocks, and even out onto the beach. And it's a lot of fun for staff and volunteers to kind of be the horses, the horsepower on the trail rider. And you can see on the kayak pictured in the top left, we've got the floats that attach on. So it's very steady onto that sea kayak there. And I've heard some staff saying that they've tried to flip it on their own with the paddle floats on, and it's nearly impossible. And also on the climbing wall there, there's a full body harness on that participant. And we often go out to Stellies, and we might be going to the new Boulder House as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with the climbing, we do have a 2-to-1 pulley system. So that's really an option for individuals who have varying strengths and mobility in their body. So we do provide options to meet where they're at, and then they want to challenge themselves getting up the wall, and we want to accommodate as much as possible. And for the trail rider, I just love to share a story. We run a couple programs that we call TRON, because we love acronyms, and TRON stands for Trail Rider Overnight Program. And it's a really unique program in that we build it around the participant. So the participant identifies, hey, I would love to go camping on a beach, and I want to bring my best friends with me, or I want to bring my family with me. And so we really build the program around the individual's community, and we help provide the resources to make it happen. So in this instance, you know, we have gone camping at Mystic Beach off the Wanda Fuka Trail. We have gone camping. We've hiked up Mount Finlayson with the trail rider. We have gone up to Strathcona and done a couple overnights in and around the Forbidden Plateau area. So really, it's almost limitless what we want to do and be able to do with the trail rider. In addition, we have a hippocamp chair, which has wide tires, which allows us to go on the beach. It also just saves individuals' chairs from getting all that grit and sand and stuff in there that we know that it's not great for their wheelchairs. So we do like to provide other alternatives for them to access those spaces. And something that's not pictured here is we know we do support a lot of individuals with invisible barriers, and we want to make sure that we create a welcoming space for them as well. So we really try to have a lot of routine in our program so people know what to predict when they come out, as well as the use of visuals, language. We really, again, like I reiterated, it's really driven by our participants, and they give us a lot of feedback, and we alter and change our programs accordingly to make sure that they feel safe and included when they're out in natural spaces. Other opportunities. So we've talked a lot about, hey, you're a participant, you're interested, and we can talk about how to access our programs at the end. But there is other opportunities to get involved with Power to Be that we wanted to share. As Britt and I both mentioned, we started out as volunteers. So we have a couple volunteer options available. So we have volunteers out on program that are supporting different individuals, both in a one-to-one and small group way. We have volunteer work parties out at Prospect Lake. Some examples of the activities that they do are, maintaining some of the gardens that are out there. We're pulling broom, we're planting trees, we're working on the trails. So lots of different possibilities on that end, as well as we have our signature fundraising events that occur a couple times a year. Again, modified for good old COVID times, where we have created Power to Summit, where you in a team of 4 can hike the height of, we've changed the mountain up a couple times, but I believe it is Denali this year. So as a group of 4, you can hike, walk, run, wheel your way up Mount Denali as a team virtually. So we're always looking for volunteers to support with that, as well as administration functions. So if you are awesome at Excel spreadsheets, or you've got some finance background, or you're just really passionate about databases, we want to hear from you. We would love to learn. So know that is always an opportunity to get involved and share your skill set as well. And I think That is a little bit of the end of our presentation. We're very happy to open to talk about different topics, or if you had questions for us, but I would really love to direct you to our website at power2be.ca to learn more and see if it would be a fit for you to come out either in a participant or volunteer capacity. And if you are, you're welcome to email at info@power2be.ca. We are running programs continuously right now. So, and we're making a couple internal changes in the fall to really, the feedback that we've received is sometimes there's a little bit of a wait list to get into our programs, and we're wanting to make sure that we can do our best to get rid of those wait lists and welcome people out, because nature's there, we're here, we just need to pair it together and see what we can make possible together. So with that in mind, does anyone have any questions or thoughts or feedback for Britt and I?
I'd love, to open the floor with a question, if that's okay.
Oh, please.
For sure. I was wondering, from hearing about the range of your programs, are there any kinds of like seasonal restrictions on the programs? Like, does one, do you guys kind of like run them for a certain time period, or is it more of like a year-round ongoing setup, depending on the outdoor activity, I guess?
Question, Sasha. So we run programs year-round. And we are under the philosophy that there is no bad weather, you just don't have the right gear. And we got the right gear. So we want to go out in the rain as long as other people do. That doesn't scare us. We do hibernate our kayaks in the winter because it's just a little bit colder out there, and we want to do some maintenance on them in the off season. We do canoe year round, and we camp year round. I guess snow would be the only thing that really would restrict us in some of those activities. And heading up to Mount Washington, we have in the past, even if it's just to facilitate transportation up there, because they have an amazing adaptive rec program through visas. If you guys haven't heard about that, check it out. They'll provide you with all the gear you need to go skiing, snowboarding, as well as a volunteer to help show you around the mountain. So I'm just got a little plug for visas there, but we noticed that the barrier for people in Victoria was like, how do I get to Mount Washington? And so we kind of stepped in and helped to provide some transportation up to the mountain. So yeah, and if we get snow down here, which is always a treat, we do have snowshoes that have barely been used that we would love to get people out snowshoeing or sledding or just exploring the winter wonderland that happens down this way once in a while. But great question, Sasha. I hope that answered it for you.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Carolyn. And I think I just have another super quick question, and that is for anyone interested in getting involved volunteer-wise. Would the best kind of way to go about that be to email the address up there, info@power2be.ca?
Correct. Yeah. So you're welcome to check out our website. I think there's actually, if you go to the volunteer section of our website, there is a form that you can fill out to share your interest. But if you're not feeling like you want to navigate a website, that's totally cool. Feel free to email that info@power2be.ca email. And I just remembered one thing that's not included in here. Cost. People might be wondering like, well, how much do these programs cost? So I apologize that we didn't say that, but all of our programs are 100% subsidized. We do ask for if it's a half-day program, for a $10 donation to help cover some of the cost, but that will include everything that you would need that day, including equipment, facilitation, risk management, first aid. So we try to keep our cost as low as possible, and if cost is a barrier for groups that we're working with or individuals, we do have a bursary program. So we have some amazing donors that say, here, take this lump of money and just use it towards breaking that barrier down, for a financial barrier down for individuals to access these programs. So yeah, we never want finances to get in the way of people accessing our programs. So I just wanted to mention that. I apologize again that we didn't include that in our presentation, but hopefully if you were wondering what that was, that answered your question.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carolyn. I think that was all the questions from my end. And if anyone else had any other questions, I know we're also streaming to YouTube. So if there are any questions that have gone through on the YouTube live stream, let me know, Kausar, and we can get to those. But yeah, otherwise, thank you so much for your guys taking the time out of your day to present to us and to our members. I know it is so much appreciated on behalf of the Disability Foundation and everyone involved. And it's really great to hear about just all the different kinds of ways that accessibility is being brought to nature and the outdoors. I know that's a value that the Disability Foundation also holds very dear. So it's super cool to hear about all the initiatives that are happening across BC.
Yeah, and we just feel. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, there are no questions on the live stream.
Sorry,
what did you say?
There are no questions on the live stream.
No, okay, perfect.
And also thank you for including us. There's some looking at the list of other speakers that are involved, like what an honor to be among them, because there's some incredible programs that are happening around Victoria and the island. And yeah, just kudos to the partners. We want to continue to work alongside you and yeah, promote what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the both of you, Carolyn and Britt. This was wonderful. And it will be posted on the Disability Foundation's YouTube channel afterwards for anyone that couldn't make it today or wanted to go back and watch it again. But yes, thank you so much for yeah, taking the time out of your day today.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Wonderful.
Thank you, guys.
Great.
Perfect. Hold on, Facebook is taking a minute. Perfect. We're online. Beautiful. All right.
Okay. Thank you for attending the Vancouver Island Virtual Roadshow presented by the ConnecTogether Society. This event is sponsored by Capital Daily and Pattison Media's various Nanaimo radio stations. As a reminder, this event is being streamed and recorded to the Disability Foundation YouTube channel. Feel free to turn off your camera if you are not comfortable being recorded. For some quick housekeeping rules, please mute yourself during the presentation unless called on or instructed by the presenter. To ask a question, you can either type it into the chat box or unmute yourself at the end of the presentation. During this event, we have automatic closed captioning available. Please go to the bottom of the Zoom meeting, click Live Transcript, and then Show Subtitles to turn them on. Before we begin, we'd like to take a quick moment to let you know how you can join an opinion research panel made specifically for British Columbians living with disabilities.
For 25 years, the Disability Foundation has been fostering meaningful experiences for Canadians with disabilities through outdoor recreation, social connectedness, innovative adaptive devices, and more. Today, we are asking, how has the pandemic affected you? Help strengthen decision-makers' understanding of your needs and experiences by joining an online opinion research panel consisting solely of people with disabilities and their caregivers. Make a difference in your community today. The Disability Foundation. Reimagine what is possible.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch that video prepared for the Roadshow. And with that, I'd love to hand it over to you, Bobbie. Thank you so much.
Hi, Bobbie.
Hello. Oh,
My cat here.
Ellie. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to an adaptive seated practice. Thank you for joining me, and I'm so excited. I feel emotional, actually. about the opportunity to share this amazing practice called yoga with you. So let's begin. As always, I'd like to invite you to begin by finding a comfortable seated position. And so sit in a way that you feel the most at ease.
It's off, friend. No, that.
And so it is challenging for our nervous system to calm down if we're uncomfortable in our bodies. And so when you're ready, and if you'd like, if it's easy for you, bring your hands into prayer pose. Lifting our heart to our hands, bowing our head to our heart. An invitation to take a moment to set a simple intention for your practice. You're setting your intention with one word, and then we'll revisit it at the end of the practice. Release your arms down by your side, turn your palms face up, and then wiggly fidgets. Shake your hands vigorously. And so if anything I share with you today does not feel comfortable, if it doesn't feel right, skip it and come back to your breathing. And so if we're focused on our breath, we are practicing yoga. And so from here, I'd like to transition into a practice that I like to call mindful movement. So not mindful, mindful. So as you're ready, reach your arm up to the sky. And then slowly float your arm down. So gentle movement, reaching up to the sky. So maybe turning your gaze up if it doesn't create tension in your neck. Slowly float your arm down. So let's explore adding a gentle breath to the movement. On inhale, reaching up, full length of your inhale. On exhale, float your arm down, the full length of your exhale. It's as if on our inhale, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end point. On exhale, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Release both arms down by your side. Rest your hands on your thighs or your knees. And we'll begin the practice on the other side. As you're ready, reach your arm up to the sky. And slowly float your arm down. So gentle movement, reaching up. Slowly float your arm down. So let's add a gentle breath to the movement. On inhale, reaching up, full length of your inhale. On exhale, float your arm down, the full length of your exhale. It's as if on our inhale, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end point. On exhale, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Release both arms down by your side. And this time, let's reach both arms up to the sky. Take a look between your palms. If it doesn't create tension in your neck, then return your gaze on the horizon. Fold your fingers in, pressing into the palms of your hands, or maybe placing your hands on the back of your head. And together we can shout out, I am, I can, and I will. And with a sigh of relief, release your arms down by your side. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down just a few times. Rest your hands on your thighs or your knees, palm face up or palm face down as desired. Take a moment to notice which feels better for you, resting your palms face up, or does it feel better to rest your palms face down? If you are feeling restless, scattered, explore resting your palms face down. This can encourage a grounding sensation. If you are feeling tired, rest your palms face up, open to receive. And so I'd like to invite you now to soften your gaze. Root down through your sits bones. Soften through your abdomen. Lengthen up through your spine. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down. Lift up through the crown of your head. And then as you're ready, I'd like to invite you to turn your gaze. You soften your gaze or close your eyes softly. And so moving away from the busyness in our minds and more towards our heart. Allow your facial muscles to soften and release. Relax your jaw. Unclench your teeth. Let there be a little space between your teeth. Soften your lower jaw. And soften between your eyebrows, wide forehead. Relax your shoulders. Relax your elbows. Relax your wrists and your hands. Let the weight of your hands ground down through your legs, giving you a connection with Mother Earth. Relax your upper back. Relax your mid back. Relax your low back and your legs. Let your throat soften and release. And from here, we'll transition into a simple yogic breathing exercise that research shows can help with pain management and anxiety. As you're ready, begin to deepen your inhale, lengthen your exhale. When we lengthen our exhale, it is calming for our nervous system. And then see if you can begin to smooth out your breath so that your inhales and your exhales are about the same duration and quality. At any point, if you notice your mind gets distracted and wants to wander off, know that that's okay. That's the nature of our mind. Simply bring your awareness back to your breath. And then lastly, you see if you can add a quality of softness to your breath. So you might imagine you just tasted something delicious. Or maybe if you happen to have a fur kid, that you're petting your favorite little guy or gal. And see if you can bring some of that same softness to areas of your body that you feel are too tight or knotty. And so our breath is long and smooth and soft as we breathe in and as we breathe out. And just for a few more breaths, or as long as feels comfortable, keeping this simple, however, not easy, breathing exercise. I'd like to add a little swaying motion to breathing. This can be calming for our nervous system. So take gentle breathes. At any point, if you notice your mind gets distracted and wants to wander off, we bring a gentle awareness to the sounds around you. So I can hear the sound of the float playing. And it seems that I can hear the sound of a gentle breeze through the trees. Maybe noticing the gentle tone of my voice, and then in a loving way, bring your awareness back to your breath. So our old friend, our breath. And so wherever you are in your breath cycle, let your breath come back to its natural rhythm. So your natural rhythm, maybe observing the rise and fall of your chest and your belly. Drop your chin towards your chest. Gradually blink your eyes. We are falling awake, not asleep. Falling awake, not asleep. And so anytime we practice mindful breathing, it acts like a bridge between our body and our mind. And so arms by your side, turn your palms face up and weave your fidgets again. So a little more vigorous this time. And do a little bum dance. And so if you like, and it's available to you, walk your hips forward in your chair. So you might come forward about 2/3 of the way. If you're needing the back of the chair for support today, honor that. So yoga meets us exactly where we are. And so shoulders up, back down. And so today I brought a poem. I've become a little bit of a poetry geek in the last few years. And this one is by Mary Oliver, and it's called The Summer Day. So I hope you enjoy it. The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass? The one who is eating sugar out of my hand? Who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down? Who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes? Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Mary Oliver. And so let's come into a practice called sun breath. So this is a meditation on the heart. And so if it's available to you, if it's easy for you, bring your hands into prayer pose at your heart center. If this position of your hands makes you lose your balance, perhaps placing your hands on your Buddha belly would be a better choice. And so a gentle reminder, we never forfeit balance to come into a pose or movement. And so as you're ready on your next inhale, extend your arms up and away. And then bring your hands back together at your heart center or your Buddha belly. And so inhale, extend up and away. So lifting your arms as high or low as you'd like. Bringing your hands back to our heart center. And so keeping this gentle heart opener flowing in your own time and rhythm. If you'd like, imagine the sun at your heart center. On your inhales, as you extend your arms up and away, imagine the radiant light of the sun all around you. And then gather that light and bring it back inside as a symbol of the light that's always inside us. And I'd like to invite you to join me in making a humming sound like a bumblebee. Inhale. So you might notice when we make the humming sound, it lengthens our exhale. Place one hand on your Buddha belly, the area between your navel and your pubic bone, the other on your heart center. And take a moment to maybe feel the rise and fall of your chest and your belly. And release your arms by your side, let a little shake out. So let's repose. Make sure your feet are placed evenly on the floor, on your footrest. Sits bones are sharp on the chin. Our spine is long, front body is soft. Shoulders up, back and down just a few times. Lift up through the crown of your head. And then from here, I'll transition into a lovely warm up for our neck and our shoulders. And so let's begin with simple neck rolls. So simple neck rotations. See if you can resist the temptation to move your head to its full range of motion. When you're ready, move your head in the other direction. Move your head up and down as if nodding yes. On inhale, looking up, and then drop your chin towards your chest. Inhale, look up, drop your chin towards your chest. When you're ready, turn your gaze looking over your shoulder, pause, and then visualize moving your chin up and down slightly. When you're ready, move your head back through center, gazing over your opposite shoulder. Imagine that you're moving your chin up and down slightly. And bring your head back through center. Drop your ear towards your shoulder. Release your opposite arm down by your side. And then pushing through the palm of your hand, reach your arm up to the sky. Slowly float your arm down, bring your head back center. And then bring your hand palm face up at your heart center. And release. So this is called nerve flossing, a nerves-like movement. So we'll repeat the same movement 3 times on the same side. So drop your ear towards your shoulder. Release your opposite arm down by your side, pushing through the palm of your hand. Reach your arm up to the sky. Avoid collapsing forward. Float your arm down. Head comes back center, palm face up at the heart. So 2 more times in your own time and rhythm. I'm here if you need a visual. So my hope for you is that you'll develop your own home practice. You become your own yoga teacher. Finish up the movement that you're on. Release your arms by your side. Let your hands rest on your thighs or knees. And we'll begin the movement on the other side. Drop your ear towards your shoulder. Release your opposite arm down by your side and then pushing through the palm of your hand, reach your arm up to the sky. Slowly float your arm down, bring your head back centered. Palm face up at the your belly is soft, breath is quiet. Drop your ear towards your shoulder, release your opposite arm by your side, pushing through the palm of your hand, reach up to the sky. So 2 more times in your own time and rhythm. And so if you're blessed with a yoga buddy, the yoga buddy can help guide your movements. So not doing the movements for you, but finish up the movement that you're on. Relax your arms by your side. And rest your hands on your thighs. And take a moment to notice how those movements made you feel. Notice any subtle sensations. And so we're not focused on what we look like in our yoga practice. The diagnostic tool is, how do I feel? Noticing any subtle sensations, trust that the sensations are there. And then when you're ready, let's reach our arms forward, stretch your palms, and then take your fingertips to your shoulders. Stretch your palms, fingertips to our shoulders, and then alternating from side to side. So when we alternate from side to side, this is good for our brain health, particularly our memory. Release your arms by your side, palms face up, take your fingertips to your shoulders, and then imagine you're drawing circles on the screen in front of you with your elbow points. And see if you can create a little half smile, like a little Buddha smile. So you might notice when we smile, it releases saliva. So we want a nice juicy mouth and juicy body. So we all know what it's like to go to the dentist. And then reverse the direction. Take a pause anytime you'd like. Come back into the movement or not. And then slowly float your arms down. And let your breath settle. And so let's do some movements for our hands. So I believe, and I think there's even research that shows now, that our hands are not only connected to our heart, but to our mind as well. So here we go. Stretch your palms. So you might imagine starfish, and then bear claw, soft kiss. Starfish, bear claw, soft kiss. Circle your wrists in one direction. Circle your wrists in the opposite direction. So maybe noticing, is one wrist tighter than the other? So we tend to be tighter on one side. Imagine you're playing piano. So we're getting this synovial fluid, Mother Nature's WD-40 flowing into all the little joints in our fingers. Turn your palms face up. Circle your thumbs in one direction. So micro movements, visualizing the movements, focusing on what we can do. Circle in the opposite direction. When you're ready, press whichever hand you'd like. So fingers facing down towards the earth. If that's not available to you, maybe making a soft fist. on your lap, and then press up towards the sky. Other side, pressing fingertips down and then up. Interlace your fingers loosely, or maybe taking hold of your elbows. So I'm going to choose to interlace my fingers today. And then imagine you're drawing the infinity symbol. So when we move with our breath, magical things happen. Reverse of direction. It's a little more challenging. Release your hands or your elbows, reach your arms up to the sky. Extend beyond your wrists, your fingertips. So get bigger in space. We tend to shrink. Fold your fingers in, or press your hands or interlace your fingers on the back of your head. And this time, together we can shout out, we are, we can, and we will. And with this sigh of relief, float your arms down by your side. And so many yoga toys to choose from. So let's repose. Make sure you're comfortable. So our bodies talk to us. And so I'm going to do a bum dance, shoulders up, back and down. And so reposing, our spine is tall, front body is soft. This time I'd like you to push down through one foot and then down through the other foot. And so maybe visualizing, it might be an energetic pressing down. And notice, can you feel one foot more than the other? And so shoulders up, back and down. Sits bones sharp on the chair. Reach I'll mirror you today, left arm up to the sky. And then turn your gaze looking away towards your opposite shoulder. Bring your head back through center, float your arm down. So other side, reach your arm up to the sky, turn your gaze, looking over your opposite shoulder. And release. So one more time, each side, reaching up, turn your gaze, looking over your opposite shoulder. And release. And reaching up, turn your gaze. And float your arm. And so at this time, I think I'd like to transition into the movements of the spine. So of course we know our spines matter. And I'd like to begin with a practice I call finding our balance. And so sitting comfortably, effortlessly upright. And actually note that if balance is a challenge for you, use whatever device you need to help you be stable in your chair. So a lap belt or maybe a chest strap, whatever works for you. And so sitting up tall, tuck your chin in slightly, and then hinging from the hips, rock forward. And so it's not about seeing how far we can go. We just come to that just right amount of effort and ease. And then rock back up. And so my favorite definition of balance. So balance is the equal distribution of presence throughout our entire body. So hinging from the hips, rock forward with a flat back. Tuck your chin in slightly. And come on back up as you're ready. So just for a few more breaths in your own time and rhythm, I'd like to invite you to keep this gentle movement flowing. And so there's something about the rocking movement that our nervous system likes. Finish up the movement that you're on. Take a moment, and then when you're ready, begin to bend your spine. Imagine a tree in the wind if you like. Sometimes it can be interesting to close our eyes as we practice these movements. And come on back to the center, to neutral spine. Notice how that movement made you feel. And then when you're ready, wherever you are in your breath cycle, inhale through your nose unless you're congested. And on your exhale, see if you can draw your sits bones towards each other. And release. Did you feel a subtle shift in your energy? So you might have felt a slight lift in your chest. So subtle, might only be apparent to you. And so Buddha belly is soft, breath is quiet. Drop your chin towards your chest. Let your shoulders round towards your front body. Round your whole spine. Breathing in, come on back to a neutral spine. Drop your chin towards your chest. Let your shoulders round towards your front body, round your whole spine. Inhale, come on back to neutral spine. And so one more time, drop your chin towards your chest, round your shoulders towards your spine. You notice that your navel naturally contracts in towards your spine. And finish up the movement that you're on. Take a moment. And we'll come into a seated side bend. So take hold of the underside of your chair. Release your opposite arm by your side. Turn your palm face up with a soft bend in your elbow. Either taking your hand up to your shoulder or maybe reaching up and over, bend to the side. Turn your gaze down towards the earth to release your neck and then breathe into your rib cage. Can you imagine breathing in below your rib cage? Slowly come out of the pose on this side. So we'll come into the pose on the other side. So taking hold of the underside of your chair, or it might be that you have an armrest or a chair beside you that you can place your hand on. So you choose. This is your yoga practice. So release your arm by your side, opposite arm, palm face up, soft bend in your elbow. Take your hand to your shoulder, or maybe reach it way up and over if that feels comfortable for you. And bend to the side. So we're stretching from our shoulder through our arm, extend beyond your fingertips. And so remember your little Buddha smile. Smile whether you're happy or not. If you're grimacing, I'll notice. And it means just maybe coming out of the pose or the movement, taking a rest and coming back into it if you like. And so let's come into a seated twist. And so today I'd like to teach a couple different versions, but let's begin with the warm-up first before we move towards the classical version. So bend your arms low in front of you, gazing straight ahead. Find a space you can gaze on softly. So that helps us to focus our mind, and then twist from side to side. If you'd like to challenge yourself a little more, you could bend your elbows, fingers reach to the sky, head and neck in line with your spine. A little more challenging again, if you'd like, is bring your elbows in line with your shoulders. And so I sometimes like to add being able to hear my breath. So I'm going to inhale and exhale through my nose. You're welcome to explore that if you'd like with me. Come back to neutral spine, float your arms down. Whew. And feel your work. Huh. And so the yoga happens between the poses and the movements. Notice how you feel. And so another version of a twist. Bring your hands into prayer pose. So it might be that we're visualizing movement today. Bring your elbow point down to your thigh. Lift your opposite elbow up. So press into the palms of your hands and turn your gaze up towards the sky. That doesn't create tension in you. Come on back through center. Bring your opposite elbow point down to your thigh. Lift your opposite elbow up, gaze up. Come on back through center. And release. So side bends, twists, pretty intense spinal movement. So we need to realign our spine. And so I'd like to share a forward fold with you in a way that I think is safe, wonderful for most folks. If you do have osteoporosis, bulging disc, forward bends are contraindicated. So for you, it might be that you're sitting comfortably, effortlessly upright. And then when we forward fold, that you visualize the movement. So imagination is powerful. And so you bring your feet a little wider than outer hip bone distance if that's possible. It's okay to have your toes turned out a little. Take hold of the underside of your chair. And then hinging from the hips, lead with the heart, not the head. Come into a forward fold. Let your head hang slightly to release the back of your neck. You can even nod yes and no. And then breathe into your lower back. And you can even imagine that your lungs are in your lower back. And slowly come on out of the forward bend by pressing down through your inner heel. So it might be an energetic pressing down. Place one hand on each of your thighs and come on back up to neutral spine. And so before we transition into a short guided meditation and your final relaxation and dessert part, I'd like to share a seated version of sun salutation. And so honoring Mother Nature with the sun. And so for this, palms come together at the front. Release your arms by your side. Spiral your palms open, soft bending your elbows, reach your arms up into mountain pose. So maybe our hands come together in prayer down through the heart. Release your arms by your side, turn your palms face up. On inhale, reaching up into mountain pose. Maybe your hands come together in prayer down through the heart. Release your arms by your side. Inhale, reaching up into mountain pose. Rear hands come together in prayer down through to the heart. Take hold of the underside of your chair, hinging from the hips, come into a forward fold. Pressing down through your inner heels, place one hand on each knee or thigh. Come on back to a neutral spine. Bring your hands together in prayer if you'd like, arms by your side. Reach up into mountain pose on an inhale. Hands come together in prayer down through the heart. Gently twist to the side. Inhale, come back to center, twist to the other side. Come on back through center. Release your arms by your side. Palms face up, soft, bend in your elbows, nothing rigid. Reach up into mountain pose. Hands come together in prayer down through the heart. This time, if you'd like and it's available to you, hug your left knee in towards your chest and belly. Place your hands behind your thigh, knee to chest. Pose, so it's okay to lean back in your chair. If you have a yoga buddy that can help with the movements, lovely. Place your foot back down onto the earth or the floor. Bring your hands together at your heart center. Arms by your side, reaching up into mountain pose. Hands come together in prayer down through the heart. This time, hug your other knee in towards your chest and belly. Interlace your hands behind your thigh if that's helpful. Knee to chest pose. And release. Hands come together at our heart. Place one hand on your Buddha belly, the other on your heart center. And then breathe in between your hands. Reach one hand over to your armpit, take your other hand to your shoulder, drop your chin towards your chest. And round your spine and notice how it feels to have your hands in this position. So I like to call this the I love me hug. And so because I love me, I can love all of you. So let's imagine we're sending everyone a virtual hug. And then float your arms down. So come on, seated comfortably back in your chair in preparation for a short guided meditation and your final relaxation. And so, not sure what time it is. I turned my phone off. I think I'm on track, but I'm going to sneak over here and see if I can check the time. So one of the things that I love to share is a practice called mudras. And so mudras are hand gestures, and they were created to help us focus our mind. And so one of the favorite mudras for me is Yana Mudra. And so I'm not sure what's up with my phone. There. So Yana Mudra, I'm going to deconstruct it a little bit for you. So bring all your fingertips pressing into your thumbs. Rest your hands on your thighs, so your hands can be palm up or down as desired. And draw your hands in towards your hip creases. And then keeping just your index fingers pressing into your thumbs and tips of your index fingers, extend your other breathing. And so if you'd like, you can imagine or think of when we bring our hands into mudra as a symbol of connecting with your higher self or your higher power. And then an invitation to look down into your heart and see what you can see. And then imagine that you're breathing into your heart. And so the meditation that I'd like to share with you today is by Thich Nhat Hanh, a beloved Zen Buddhist monk. And so another wisdom tradition, pardon me. And so it goes like this. Breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. As my in-breath grows deep, my out-breath grows slow. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I feel ease. Breathing in, I smile. Breathing out, I release. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. We'll sit and breathe together for a few moments. Breathing. Come into whatever comfortable seated position you'd like for your final relaxation. And so if you have the ability to recline in your chair, go for it. Making sure your head and neck is supported. If you want to throw your legs up on a chair, that can be lovely too. And so let's roll our shoulders up, back and down a few times. So we're not scrunching our shoulders towards our ears. We're allowing our shoulders to soften away from our ears. Relax your hands, palms face up or down on your thighs as desired. Close your eyes softly if that feels comfortable for you, or soften your gaze. So soft Buddha belly, the area between our navel and our pubic bone. Soft palms, quiet breath. Allow your breath to reflect the pose. Serenity pose. Relax your jaw. Unclench your teeth. Let there be a little space between your teeth. Soften your lower jaw. And soften around your temples. And soften the area between your eyebrows. Wide forehead. And silently, if you like, on inhale, saying let. On exhale, go. Inhale, let. Exhale, go. It's challenging to quiet the mind. Sometimes placing our hands on our Buddha belly and bringing our awareness to our breath can be helpful. And without changing anything, bring your awareness back to your breath. Thank your body. Thank your body again. Our bodies are the best home our mind will ever have. And so come on, seated comfortably to finish up your yoga practice. And so an invitation to bring your hands into prayer pose if you'd like. Lift your heart to your hands, bow your head to your heart, and to take a moment to bring the intention that you set at the beginning of the practice back to mind. And then let it go. Take a moment to honor yourself and each other for showing up for yoga practice today. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. And so the teacher me honors and appreciates the teacher in each of you. Thank you. So notice how you feel before and after your practice. Thank you to ConnectTogether, lovely tech hosts, and the Disability Foundation for providing this opportunity for us to spend some time together. And so I'm happy to stay for a few moments after the class. If you have any questions or feedback.
Yeah, sorry about this with the stream. Gotta love technical difficulties.
Should we not talk right now, or does it matter?
If you could just give us 1 minute and we'll see.
No. No, I didn't mean about the. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
He was like chatting, like we're doing.
Oh, I think we might be good
Yeah,
now.
it's sharing now.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think it would be good if you could restart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So hi everybody, my name is Michelle McDonald. I'm a program manager with BC Wheelchair Sports Association, and joining me is Marnie Abbott-Peter, who is the director of the Let's Play program with BC Wheelchair Basketball Society. So today we're going to talk to you a little bit about our organizations, who we work with, a little bit about why you should consider getting involved in sport. We'll tell you about our Bridging the Gap program, which is kind of how we get new people involved in sport for the first time, some of our programs and events that you might be interested in, and then also some volunteer opportunities if you wanted to engage with us in that way. I'll have time for questions, or we can provide some contact information for anyone that has questions at the end. So about our organization. So since 1971, we have helped people with physical disabilities across the province of BC lead active, healthy lives through wheelchair sports. We were formerly one organization and recently separated into two. So BC Wheelchair Sports still administers wheelchair tennis, wheelchair rugby, and wheelchair athletics. And within that, just the track and field events of wheelchair racing and seated throws. And then BC Wheelchair Basketball obviously administers wheelchair basketball. And they also have the Let's Play program, which we'll tell you a little bit about. It's been an incredible equipment program that's really helped us grow in all of our sports, actually. And we have programming throughout the province, and we're always looking to expand to more participants and communities. So we can talk a little bit about that as we go through. We work with athletes from beginner level, juniors through to adults, and we support recreational participation as well as high performance athletes and Paralympians. We have regular programming, but we also host a number of wheelchair sport competitions, both recreational level or kind of a first try at a competition all the way through to high performance international sport. And we work towards reducing barriers to participation through our Bridging the Gap program. So we host Have a Go Days, we have Wheelchair Loan program, which I'll talk about a bit more, and programs such as Go Time, which is our girls program. So we have some videos just to talk a little bit about the sport so you don't have to listen to us the whole time. So we'll play those now. Oh, I should unmute it.
Faster, higher, further. Athletics. Run. Jump. Throw. Para-athletics was one of 8 sports included in the first Paralympic Games in 1960. It is divided into 168 separate events, the most for any sport at the Paralympic Games. Some athletes use a competitive wheelchair called a racer. Some have prosthetic arms or legs. Other vision-impaired athletes run with a guide runner. A variety of athletes with different impairments make for exciting events. Fair races under conditions that are as equal as possible are maintained for athletes with disabilities ranging from vision and intellectual impairments to paralysis and limb deficiency through a classification system. Classifications start with T for track and jumping events, F for throwing field events. Following the prefix is a double 2 number. The first indicates the type of impairment, where the second differentiates the classes within that impairment group. TF 11 to 13 is for vision impairment. Athletes classified with lower numbers use guides. TF 20, intellectual impairment. Athletes in the 30s classes have brain-related coordination impairments, such as cerebral palsy. T33 to 34 compete in wheelchair racing, and F31 to 34 in seated throws. The higher numbers compete standing. TF40 to 41 is for short stature. TF45 to 47 is for athletes with arm impairment. Athletes in the 50s classes compete in wheelchairs. Or seated throws in field events. The lower the number, the greater the activity limitation. TF 61 to 64 athletes have a leg impairment with a prosthesis. The lower the number, the higher the degree of amputation. At the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games, there are 16 classes in the men's 100 meters and 14 classes in the women's, meaning a total of 30 100 meters gold medalists will be created. There is also an event that is unique to the Paralympic Games. The club throw was created for athletes with limited grip as a replacement for javelin throw, allowing the club to be thrown freely so long as only one hand is used, creating a variety of styles. Athletes with vision impairment guided through a specially made tether running alongside their guide runners. They push themselves to the limit.
Okay, so as I mentioned, BC Wheelchair Sports, we only do the wheelchair racing and seated throws events. So if you want to run on prosthetics, if you have a visual impairment, that's through BC Athletics, and we can help to make those connections as well, though, so you don't have to kind of navigate that on your own. In wheelchair racing, you can compete in anything from 100 meters up to a marathon road race. So we have athletes that compete at the Vancouver Sun Run, for example. We also have athletes that compete in marathons around the world. And you can see on the right, the middle chair, this is obviously a child's racing chair, but it's a little bit different than any other sport chair. It has a third wheel at the front, and you sit in a kneeling position, and you wear gloves with a piece of rubber protecting your hand, and actually punch the push rim because the wheels go too fast to push it how you normally would. In seated throws, we do discus, shot put, javelin, so just like you would picture, and in a seated throws frame. So at the top there, so you're strapped into the frame is strapped to the ground, so it's not going anywhere. And then for individuals who maybe don't have as much core function, they can use the pole to propel themselves forward and complete the throwing motion. And then we also have club throw. And so as you heard in the video, it's for someone who maybe has a little less hand function. So if you think like I can't hang on to a javelin, or I can't lift a shot put, you can do club throw, and you can literally hold it however you can and throw it however you can. So if that is over your head based on your muscle function or across your chest, that is permitted, and we just angle you in your chair. And as you can see from the bottom photo, you can also throw in your power chair. If you don't want to transfer from a day chair, we can strap your day chair to a platform on the ground, so you don't have to transfer. The platform just makes it a little bit higher. It's fully integrated, so you can compete at local track meets, at elementary school, and recreationally. So we have some recreational competitions as well. Anyone, there's a wide range that can participate in wheelchair athletics. So we have individuals living with spinal cord injuries, amputations, people who have cerebral palsy, some people who have acquired brain injuries, if there's a physical presentation, and any age. So we have kids that are as young as like 6 that come out just to fun play days, and then all the way through to adults. Really any age you can get started. And we have programming throughout the province, and some really great racing coach, or couple actually, on Vancouver Island, and a throws coach. So definitely can get you involved. The next sport is wheelchair tennis. That's my sport, not that I play, that I manage, and I would be terrible at it. I'll show you the video now.
Wheelchair tennis is a technical and tactical sport, very similar to its Olympic counterpart, and is played by athletes in more than 100 countries. The most significant difference to Olympic tennis is the 2-bounce rule, whereby a player can allow the ball to bounce twice and must return it before a 3rd bounce. The 2nd bounce can be inside or outside the core boundaries. Matches are the best of 3 sets. The first player to reach 6 games by a margin of 2 wins the set. As with the able-bodied version, if the set is tied at 5-5, one of the players must win 7-5. If the score is 6-all, a tiebreak is used to decide the set. The wheelchair tennis competition consists of 6 medal events: men's singles, women's singles, men's doubles, women's doubles, quad singles, and quad doubles. Players use sports wheelchairs with wheels adapted to allow better balance and mobility. As with all Paralympic sports, classification in wheelchair tennis is based on the principle that an athlete has a medically diagnosed permanent impairment. For wheelchair tennis, this impairment must be physical. Athletes whose impairment affects up to 2 limbs compete in the men's and women's open competitions, and athletes whose impairment affects 3 or more limbs compete in the quad division, which is a mixed gender division.
This one. Okay. Yeah, so wheelchair tennis, as I mentioned, you can play in both singles and doubles events. It's basically exactly the same as tennis that you've seen with people standing up. You just get 2 bounces of the ball. So the first bounce has to be in, the second bounce can be in or out. And so we use the same officials. We use the same courts, we use the same rackets. We just have a sports chair instead of tennis shoes. And it's a really great sport for if you're in a smaller community, or you're the only person you know who has a disability. You can play with anyone. You don't need another person who plays in a sports chair. So if you play with a sibling, a friend, they get 1 bounce and you get 2. We've had kids play on their high school tennis teams. We've had adults join leagues at their local tennis club, and they'll be the only person who plays in a chair. And we also host tournaments where we do doubles pairing. So one person plays standing and one person plays seated or in a wheelchair, and we do doubles tournaments that way. Anyone with a medically diagnosed permanent mobility related impairment that results in substantial loss of function in one or both lower extremities can participate in wheelchair tennis. So if your disability affects your ability to run, then you would be eligible for wheelchair tennis. So big thing that we always want to tell people is you do not need to be a daily wheelchair user. For most wheelchair sports, actually, that's a misconception, but especially in tennis. So we have lots of players who walk with crutches or with prosthetics or unassisted, but still find that it's easier to play in a sports chair than it is to play standing, just because of the lateral movement required in tennis. And sports chairs are very light and agile and easy to move on a court. There's an open division, so if your disability only impacts your lower limbs, then you play in the open. And there's men's, women's, and juniors divisions. And then there's a quad division. So if your disability also impacts your upper limbs, and we can help you tape the racket to your hand. So if grip is an issue, we have lots of players. I know it sounds uncomfortable, but it's really not that bad. And you get used to it. And so that when you swing, you don't lose the racket, but it's very doable. And even to get started, some players play in a power chair. And there's a tour, so there's tournaments all around the world, so it's really great if you like to travel. And there's wheelchair tennis at basically any tennis, higher level tennis event that you would see on TV. So Wimbledon, the Australian Open, and the US Open, there is wheelchair tennis, and we're starting to see it more on TV, which is quite exciting, the highlights of wheelchair tennis as well. We have programs throughout the province, again, for juniors through to adults. We have a really keen group in the South Vancouver Island, so in Victoria, and we're looking to expand programming, and we would love to connect you with some coaches with some knowledge in other regions of the island and around the province if someone else is watching this. And my last sport, and then I'm going to let Marnie talk, is wheelchair rugby.
Wheelchair rugby is actually the only team sport there is for quadriplegics.
One of the very few sports where both men and women play on the same teams.
Whether a young person, old person, elite athlete, it's for everybody.
Having access to that and knowing most of the players are open to sharing and helping other people, it's a big part of our sport.
This is a combat sport. C'est ce qui est bon, ça. C'est le rugby, c'est pas le contact.
Wheelchair rugby has 7 classes. So the lowest class is the 0.5 class, and that means that's the athlete with the most impairment. The highest class is the 3.5 class, and that is the athlete with the least impairment.
It's a team of 12 players, but at any given time, there are only 4 players on the court. A team of 4 athletes on the court can't exceed 8 points. And if you have on the court, you can have 8.5 points. High-level players, they are fast, they can wheel, they can pass the ball.
The low point is the more severely disabled. They are the key players and they play defensive roles and provide the opportunity for a high point player to score.
You don't need lights, you don't need anything. All you need is a ball and 4 cones and you have a game.
All you need is a ball and 4 cones and some wheelchair rugby chairs. Because wheelchair rugby is full contact. So if you like roughhousing, if you like being physical, then wheelchair rugby is definitely the sport for you. And it's not as dangerous as it sounds. The chairs are meant to take the impact. Players learn how to take the impact, and you get used to it. So it was actually invented in Winnipeg in 1976 by my friend Duncan Campbell and some other of his friends. And they invented it because it was difficult for them to play wheelchair basketball based on their shoulder and arm function. And so they wanted a sport where they could be competitive. And since then, it has really taken off. It's played in over 40 countries around the world. Competitively, there's a program starting in Uganda, which is really exciting to see. It's played on a basketball court, or they would call it a rugby court. The objective is to cross the opponent's goal line for a point. And it's unlike tennis and athletics, which very closely resemble the Olympic counterpart. Wheelchair rugby is not like standing rugby. It was called murder ball, and then we had to rename it when it became a Paralympic sport. And so it combines elements of basketball, handball, and hockey, but it's played with a ball. It's very similar to a volleyball, played on a basketball court. You don't pass backwards like in rugby. That shows my knowledge of rugby. So it's not like rugby. You have to have at least 3 limbs impacted by your disability. So if, for example, you have a spinal cord injury, or 4 limbs if it's not a spinal cord injury. So people have multiple amputations or coordination-based disabilities such as cerebral palsy. And it's co-ed, which is really great. So women and men play on the same team, and there's a whole classification system, but that is not important to get started. What's just important is to contact us, and we can tell you where to go from there. And so if you're not sure if you'd be eligible, then give us a call. We'll let you know. And there is programming, and there is a club in Victoria, and there's another club in Parksville or Nanaimo. I'm not 100% sure. Somewhere between those 2 regions, there is a club. They move around a lot. So we definitely have rugby on the island, and there are definitely ways to get involved. All right, our last of our 4 sports.
We're not getting any audio on this.
Yeah, there is no audio.
The team consists of 12
Oh,
players.
there it is.
5 on court at any one time.
I'm just going to restart it because I muted myself and I then muted the video. So it's my
Wheelchair basketball has featured in every game since its introduction in 1960. The sport is very similar to able-bodied basketball. The court, the hoop, and the backboard are all the same dimensions. Each team consists of 12 players, with 5 on court at any one time. Players are classified on a point system from 1 to 4.5. The higher the number, the lower the impairment. Each team can't exceed a total of 14 points on the court at any time. Players must not travel with the ball and are required to throw or bounce it after every 2 pushes on their wheels. Like the able-bodied version, free throws resulting from a foul score 1 point. Field goals within the 3-point line score 2 points. And for all baskets scored outside, 3 points are awarded. Fouls occur when a player or their wheelchair comes into contact with an opponent. Each game consists of 4 periods of 10 minutes. Extra periods of 5 minutes are played if scores are tied at the end of regular time. Players use lightweight, easy to maneuver wheelchairs. The chair is comprised of 1 or 2 small wheels at the front, 2 large wheels at the back, set outward at a slant to ensure balance and stability. Players are strapped into the chair, so any slight movement will see the wheelchair react with you to achieve maximum agility. This is a fast-paced and frenetic sport, requiring high hand coordination and stamina.
Okay, so that's wheelchair basketball. And as it's mentioned in the video, it's very competitive and there's all different levels for sure. We're showing you the Paralympic of all these level of all these sports, but there's definitely recreational and beginner levels. The basic rules are pretty much the same as any stand-up basketball. We follow FIBA rules, which is the Federation of International Basketball. The only thing really that's different in wheelchair basketball is the traveling rules. So in the stand-up game, you couldn't just take the ball and run down the court. When in wheelchair basketball, it's the same. You can't just wheel around with the ball, which is what sort of is different in rugby, where you can do that. In wheelchair basketball, you actually have to dribble after every 2 pushes. So you're allowed 2 pushes, and then you have to dribble, pass, or shoot. And then there's no double dribble though, so you could start and stop as many times as you like. And we play on the same size court, 10-foot baskets. Depending on what level it is, the 3-point line's in a certain position, normally around the international line, which is the same as what you would see in the Olympics right now if you're watching any of the basketball. And yeah, fouls are the same, free throws, all of that. So it's a pretty exciting game. Again, the equipment is a big piece of it. And they talked a little bit about the chairs with the cambered wheels, lightweight, sport chairs with the anti-tip, and then the strapping, which is also really important for athletes. Next slide. So basically anybody can play wheelchair basketball. You do not have to have a disability. We also do have a classification system in place. So there's always a spot for someone with a disability. It's not like able-bodied people are coming in and taking spots away from people with disabilities. So we really encourage anybody to come and try the sport and really promote the wheelchair as just another piece of sports equipment, like a bicycle or a hockey stick or whatever it might be. Come in and try it. A variety of different disabilities are included with wheelchair basketball. And as I said, we encourage able-bodied participation. So the classification system ranges from a class 1 to a 4.5, which would be what an able-bodied person would be classed at, and a person with more severe disability would be a 1. And then depending on the league, you have a certain number of points on the floor at a time. And really, as Michelle mentioned, classification when you're starting out in the sport is not important at all. And in a lot of our rec leagues and our clubs, we don't even use the classification system because it restricts people from participating sometimes. So we just want everybody to participate that wants to. We have a provincial league. We actually have 3 clubs on the island, one in Comox, one in Parksville, Nanaimo area, and then another one in Victoria. So there's lots of opportunities on the island to get started. We'll be over there in the fall to have a go day, just for anybody new who wants to come and try the sport. You can pop in and we'll have all the equipment and everything there to make it nice and easy for your first experience. And then hopefully if you enjoy it, you'd be able to connect up with one of our clubs after and continue to participate. And there's options within the club to participate at a recreational level or to, as I mentioned, play in our league and be a little bit more competitive. So we try and welcome everybody and all types of all comers. Come and play. It's a fun game. So Michelle mentioned our Let's Play program, and you can see here the little sport wheelchairs. So it's basically a unique equipment program. We had children coming to wheelchair sports and wheelchair basketball when they were 12 or 13 years old and wanting to start and play in competitive sport, but didn't have any skills whatsoever, no fundamental movement skills, had never tried a sport wheelchair, very low fitness and strength, very low confidence in terms of participating in a group. So we needed to find these kids earlier and get them playing. And this is what the Let's Play program does. So we get to identify children that are eligible for the program, which is pretty much anybody who could push a manual sports wheelchair, give them a free wheelchair to use, and then encourage their teachers and their families to find ways for them to be active in their own school and in their own community. And then when possible, connecting up with our programming once they get a little bit older and choose a more sport-specific pathway. So really, it's just about physical literacy and giving the kids some skills and some confidence to participate and to play. A lot of times when kids have a disability when they're young, their parents are really focused on physiotherapy and the medical side of things. And they sometimes need to be reminded that kids need to play. And giving them the equipment they need to have a good experience and to be able to be successful is a really big piece of that. So that's what the Let's Play program does. And then we can connect the kids to appropriate sport-specific programming once we figure out what their abilities are, what their interests are, what's available in their area, and those kinds of things. So yeah, it's a really great program and it's super fun. And we're really looking forward to having these kids come through our pathway. And it's the same for most of the wheelchair sports as well. We have a recreational pathway and then a competitive pathway. And with basketball, we start with Let's Play, and then we graduate up to our Junior Challenge, which is an annual junior event we have, and then kids can graduate from there to BC Games, Canada Games, and then on towards higher performance stuff if they so choose. We can skip to the next slide. Oh, go ahead, Michelle, you can take this.
So let's see what the next slide says. Yeah. So sometimes people think like, oh yeah, I know about sport, but like, you know, and I'll get fit and whatever, but there's so many other benefits to sport. And so that's kind of what we like to highlight. So yes, you're going to get stronger, faster, more agile. You know, your heart rate will maybe decrease. Your range of motion might improve, but there's other physical benefits that you might not think of. So we see lower incidences of hospitalization for people who have disabilities who participate in sport, reduced pressure sores, better sleep. Those are all, you know, physical benefits that sometimes people don't think of. It's also emotional benefits. So it reduces stress, improves your concentration, gives you a sense of belonging. So you become part of a team, or even if it's not a team sport, part of a group. You might get better leadership skills. You might have more confidence. You might just feel happier because you exercise today. There are cognitive benefits such as resiliency, ability to cope, self-esteem, feelings of energy, and then the social benefits. And those are the ones I really want to highlight. You know, decreased feelings of isolation and teamwork and sense of community, but also an opportunity to learn from people who have similar experiences, who have gone through similar things, or who might be able to teach you a new way to do something that you haven't thought of before. So an example of that would be a lot of our participants, maybe, you know, you're going to go on a road trip with a team, or you're going to go across the country or out of country with a team. And so you have to know how to get on a plane. You don't have to know how to pack for a hotel that might not be perfectly accessible. It would be lovely if the world was as accessible as our homes or some of the places we're familiar with, but that we know that's just not the reality. And so there's a lot that you can learn from teammates or even from coaches who have experience traveling with other athletes who have disabilities. And that, I think, is one of the benefits that people don't recognize, but that at the end of the day becomes one of the bigger benefits for them of participating in sport, is all the stuff outside of sport that they get as well. And I know I've worked with a number of people who've gone on their first trip and their first experience, and I don't teach them anything, but their teammates teach them so much about, you know, how to travel and everything. And then it translates into your life, right? So you can travel with friends or travel with family, and be confident that you know how to do that. So I think that's a really big piece of it.
I would just add too that especially with the children, fostering independence and encouraging the parents to loosen up a little bit and get a little bit outside their comfort zone is a really important piece of it. And just letting them take a few risks, because a lot of times, you know, you're really sheltered and protected, and sometimes taking those little risks is really exciting, and then it kind of moves you to the next level. So even if it's just as small as getting on a court with 6 people that are already playing, it feels risky to some kids, or even just getting into a sport wheelchair for the first time, coming from a day chair that they haven't been able to push themselves. So that, to me, is a real key piece of, and how important in parasport is. And as Michelle's talking about, that athlete mentorship, and a lot of times the coaches have a disability as well, so they're able to advise people and just to be a mentor, or just to be a person that they can look towards for information and stuff. So that's a really important piece of it all, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say probably, you know, any adult on this call who has an acquired disability can probably also identify with the desire to take risks again, maybe. And sometimes our friends and loved ones mean well, but they really want to protect us from ever getting hurt again. And that's just not life. And so you have to be able to take some risks. I'm not saying, you know, go do the X Games like some people do, which is really hard to watch. But, you know, playing wheelchair rugby, like, you know, it's full contact, but it is safe. And, you know, we would never do anything where like multitudes of our athletes were getting hurt. But you can take a little bit of a risk sometimes. And I think that's important in life, to be able to do that. And to have an environment where it's like, I'm taking this risk, but there is a background of people here in case something goes wrong, that know what to do. So I think sometimes we all need a little more risk in our lives.
Yeah.
So some of the barriers to sport participation, and I'm sure people on this session will identify with some of these. Accessible facilities, you know, it is getting better. It's improved even in my time at BC Wheelchair Sports, and I'm sure in Marnie's time. But, you know, there still are barriers. Cost of adaptive equipment, chairs, you know, even though we say it's just another piece of sport equipment, it happens to be a very expensive piece of sport equipment. It's like buying a one-man sailboat, not buying a pair of running shoes. So we understand that. Need for physical assistance, getting in a chair, or like I mentioned, taping a racket to your hand, transportation. So, you know, we all know it's hard enough to take transit, and then to have to bring a second piece of equipment with you can make it quite difficult. Availability of programs and financial constraints, and then also just awareness of opportunities. So that's the first step today, is learning about what opportunities exist out there, and where you can get connected. Self-identification. So I would really encourage you, even if you don't use the wheelchair on a daily basis, really consider maybe wheelchair sports would be appropriate for you. Because we find a lot of people later in life who are like, man, I wish 20 years ago I had recognized that this was an opportunity. I could have been amazing, and I still am amazing, but I'm 50 and it's a little bit, you know, a different pathway for that person than it is for a 20-year-old finding the sport. Fear of injury, again, we really do make it very safe. And perception of family and others. And so we try and overcome a lot of those with the Bridging the Gap program. So it was started in BC, and it's now a national program. And the goal was to introduce and support continued involvement of individuals with physical disabilities in wheelchair sports and recreational opportunities, promoting active, healthy lifestyle. So the aim of the program ultimately is to get people involved in our sports and to stay and participate at whatever level they deem appropriate for them. But we do also just want people to be active in general. So if you come to me and you say, I want to ski, then we can connect you with the people that can help make that happen. Or I want to sail, or I want to box, or, you know, any number of things. There are so many adaptive sports out there these days that we can help people get involved with. And so we do that through a number of ways. So have a go days, addressing barriers to participation. So all of our programming is low or no cost. And if it's a low cost program and that cost is still prohibitive, then it will be a no cost program for that person. We have equipment loan programs, which I'll talk about a bit more, to reduce that barrier. We offer peer support, so you can meet other athletes and coaches who have similar experiences and can guide you through the process. We have partnerships with rehab centers and community organizations like this one to find more people. We train coaches and instructors. We do a lot of advocacy and awareness. We have all levels of programming. We work with facilities to improve accessibility, whether through grants or just from simple changes, like if that door faced the other way, it would be a lot easier to get in and out of. And then we also now have an Indigenous Bridging the Gap program, which is aiming to identify more individuals who identify as being both Indigenous and having a physical disability, and to get them involved in wheelchair sport, because we recognize that while we're experts in wheelchair sport and getting people with physical disabilities involved, we maybe didn't know what we didn't know when we're working with Indigenous populations. So we're trying to improve that. So the equipment loan program that I mentioned, and you've seen all the equipment throughout all the clips, but these are all of the sport chairs, and a rugby chair costs about $10,000. A basketball chair is about $4,000. A tennis chair, look at Angela's face. A tennis chair is like $3,000, and racers are $4,000 to $5,000 for a chair. So as you can imagine, if you were like, hey, I want to try out some wheelchair rugby, you're not going to go buy a $10,000 chair to try the sport. And we recognize that. And you're not going to buy a $2,000 chair probably to find out that you don't like tennis. So we loan all of the chairs for $10 a month or $100 a year. And you take care of the tubes and tires. So because those get used frequently and often, and everything else, if something major goes wrong, we will take care of it. If it gets crushed by an airplane, which unfortunately does happen, we'll loan you a new chair and we will deal with the insurance and those kind of things. So it really reduces that barrier for people. Equipment is not going to be, this is not going to be the chair that you take to the Paralympics. If you go one day, we try and have, the best fit we can for every person. And then when people get to a higher level and need a more high performance piece of equipment, then we can help them access grants or funding to reduce those barriers as well. But I will say it is good equipment. It's not bad equipment at all. It's just they're very specialized, and chairs need to adapt with your skill level. And for the Let's Play program, they need to grow with you, because you can't use the same chair when you're 3 as when you're 12, obviously. So we can swap out equipment in that way. We can try new things. We can adjust things to make it work a little bit better for you. And again, if you just want to drop into a program at a club, then you can contact that club, and typically they will have some equipment available just for you to come and try for the day. So you don't even need to loan a piece of equipment. You can just come out to a Have a Go day and try it out. Oh, that's weird. Okay, so Have a Go days, because I was going to talk about them more, are opportunities where you can come out and try the sport, and we'll have equipment, we'll have coaches, we will have athletes, and everything you need to get involved for the first time. And then really, it's just about you showing up. And typically we do some days that are sport specific. So we might have a wheelchair tennis day. We also do multi-sport Have a Go days. So Marnie mentioned we're coming to the island, and we will come and we'll be there for 3 hours, and we'll do all the sports. And so you can come and get just a little bit of each sport. There's no pressure. There's no expectation that you know anything about the sport or that you have any skill level. And we will go from everything from, okay, this is the type of chair that you need, all the way up to, okay, here's the rules of the sport, or some of the rules. And you just get to play. And it's a really great opportunity to participate. And we really encourage people when we are in the area to do that. And if we're not there, and if there's not a Have a Go, then there's always clubs or coaches that are willing to help people get involved more one-on-one, or they can come to a practice during the season so that they can get involved for the first time.
So yeah, we will be coming to the island. We're excited on August 21st and 22nd. So on the 21st, we'll be in Nanaimo, and then on the 22nd, we'll be in Victoria. And we'll definitely send out the details for that. We hope to see some people there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be at Carsa in Victoria. The other nice thing is, if you've never been to a sport facility before, you can be confident that we would not pick a facility that you won't be able to use. So if we're going to be there, then you will be able to, there will be an accessible washroom that, you'll be able to get in the door, and we'll make sure that all of that works. So you don't, all of those barriers, all of those being nervous about those things is removed, and you just have to show up and have fun. And we encourage people to bring friends or family to also try, because sometimes if they're a little bit nervous, that can reduce the nerves for them as well. So Really encourage people to try. So this is just some resources, so we'll leave it up for a minute. All of our websites where you can find more information about our programs and services. We also have some manuals that we can share if there's anyone that's interested in coaching or learning more specifics about the sport. And then there's some documentaries. So I would really encourage people to check these out. The Rolling with the Punches documentary is about, I think it's about adaptive boxing. Rising Phoenix is about Paralympic sport, and it is awesome. It's on Netflix. And actually, one of the girls is a fencer, a para-fencer, and she's in a commercial, which is playing right now during the Olympic broadcast. Yeah. It's pretty cool. She's awesome. She's from Italy. There is a murder ball documentary, which is on Amazon Prime, and then another one about wheelchair rugby called Across the Line, which is about a couple of BC wheelchair rugby players and kind of follows their journey to qualifying for the Paralympics. And it's through AMI and has been on the TV a couple times. So those are kind of our main things. I know we're on like a live stream, so we probably don't have any questions unless Angela has some. And then, but we're always available. You can contact any of us and let us know if you have questions.
Hi, this is Patrick Levy. I do have a question. I just don't see myself right now in my screen. Oh,
we can see you.
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't see if my camera is straight or not.
You look great.
Thanks. First of all, I'd like to thank Michelle and the BC Wheelchair Sports Association for getting me introduced to wheelchair tennis through a Have a Go day. So I confirm it does work, because I've now been interested in competing in wheelchair tennis. And being disabled, I can attest that the benefits of sports, well, there are benefits of sports in all categories that was shown earlier, which has helped me a lot to get through my disability and acceptance and getting back out doing sports. I just found it difficult with the pandemic recently to do sports with others, but luckily some of the restrictions are being reduced right now, so it makes things more pleasant right now. My question is, to have access to certain facilities, you need to be a member of the local club. Is this separate than being a member of the BC Wheelchair Sports Association or the local wheelchair sports club?
Yeah, so if it's like a tennis facility, for example, that's probably the biggest one. Tennis, there are lots of private tennis clubs in the province. They're for-profit businesses. So yes, it is different. Our membership is $10 a year, and it's really for insurance purposes and for equipment loan and all of those things, because any piece of equipment that belongs to us is insured by us, and also you. Tennis clubs, on the other hand, some are relatively affordable. Some, like Hollyburn in West Vancouver, is $60,000 a year for a membership. So, but if it's an issue of getting access to court time, that kind of things, then that is something we can help people navigate. Sometimes clubs are willing to cut a deal for an athlete, especially if they're taking on some coaching time at the facility. And so that's kind of stuff, Patrick, that you and I can discuss offline. But just so everybody knows, if you come up against any barrier, or if it's like someone's not letting me join this club and I am willing to pay, we are happy to advocate on your behalf or alongside you and to bang on some doors, because it's 2021. So we need to stop seeing some of that. And sometimes it's really just about people being nervous that their facility isn't accessible for somebody, and not knowing how to communicate that, not knowing kind of how to ask you, like, okay, well, would this work for you? And so sometimes we just need to kind of have those conversations, and they mean well. And other times we need to remind them that the world should be open to everybody. So we're happy to do that, but we're also happy to work with athletes to talk about costs and all that, especially if you're training with a purpose.
Thank you. And I understand that this is the BC Wheelchair Sports Association presentation and BC Wheelchair basketball. But there's other adaptive sports that exist. Like sledge hockey, does it fall under your organization?
So sledge hockey falls under Sportability, but that's really great. I should have mentioned them. So they do, it's called para ice hockey now, although I think people are holding on to sledge hockey. And they also do power soccer and bocce. And so anyone that's interested in those sports, we can connect you. We actually share an office with them. So they're not on the presentation. We obviously work very closely with wheelchair basketball because we have the same kind of equipment and we have the same members, and most of our kids use Let's Play chairs. So we're very lucky to work together, but there are other things for sure. So that is through Sportability, and they would have a similar system and similar clubs across the province. And then, yes, there's adaptive snow sports, both cross country and Nordic. There is biathlon if you like shooting while you're skiing. There's everything really. There's more sports than I've ever seen before. There's lacrosse, there's badminton. So we can help you connect, and we can also give you some guidance on like which sports maybe have the systems that I mentioned in place. So have equipment, have all those things, and which sports are more in their infancy, might be a little more difficult to get involved in if you're kind of nervous about that or not sure where you want to start. So we can definitely help people if they want to reach out and have those conversations as well.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I want to jump into my question. Thank you for the presentation. I've never seen a sports chair up close, much less the different types. Didn't realize there were different types. So that was just super cool. And you mentioned it at the beginning that BC Wheelchair Sports and then BC Basketball were once the same organization. I'm just curious, why did they end up splitting?
So I'll take that if you want, Michelle. The reason we ended up splitting out was basically because as two separate provincial sport organizations, we can access a lot more funding and we can apply for grants. And so overall, we're able to bring more money into all four sports that way. And it would be the same for Sportability. They're their own provincial sport organization. So just having that autonomy to be able to apply for grants, and we're a registered charity and a nonprofit as well. So that piece of it was really what motivated us. It's nothing to do with us wanting to be separate or anything. Really, it just comes down to money at the end of the day. And we do work a lot together on a lot of things. And it is confusing, I think, to some people sometimes, but I mean, it's easy to find us. And if we're the wrong person, we know who to direct you to usually. So yeah.
And our offices are literally like in the same hallway. Like we are all mixed up together. So we are very close, but yeah, it is fun. I mean, if you can imagine like BC soccer, for example, I mean, they have tens of thousands of members, but they have one sport. And BC Wheelchair Sports before the split was applying and getting funding for one sport essentially, but had four sports. And then if you factor in, even though we have fewer members, the cost of equipment, it's just quite difficult, even though we are very successful with grants, and we're very grateful to all of our donors and everybody that supports our organizations. But it's difficult. There's a lot of costs involved in our sports. So it just made sense. But we're coming to the island together. We literally talk every day. So we're very close. We're just two organizations.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So if there's no more questions, please do reach out or check out our website or follow us on social media. We're doing lots of posts about the Paralympics coming up at the end of August. And just like even in the lead up now, we're posting stuff about all of our sports, but also other interesting things that are happening in the world. So I would encourage you to check that out. And you might see somebody on TV that you'll then see going down the street in Parksville, for example.
Well, thank you both for coming and presenting for the Vancouver Island Virtual Roadshow. We're honored to have you guys here and talking. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And for the people in the Zoom meeting, for people watching outside of this, a wonderful week as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. I was in Nanaimo at that park, an outdoor park just by that bay right downtown Nanaimo. Right. And that was the only time I'd ever forgotten to bring my sticks. I didn't have my gloves. So I'll never forget that. So they wrapped duct tape around my hands to hold the sticks in place. And I still have an audio recording of some of that show somewhere. It was crazy. Anyway, they put us up overnight. We were all staying, I think, in 2 rooms, and then we went and played the show and got duct tape, and they wouldn't take it off. I had to come all the way home with it. No, I'm just kidding.
You ask any
We'll teach you a lesson.
Yeah. You ask any Tetra volunteer or employee, and they'll tell you that duct tape is the cure-all to any issue. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It worked well, because after I played a couple of songs, it loosened up just a little bit. So I had a little bit of flex.
Nice. Who knew Red Green was such a disability ally?
Exactly. Everything. Now, Dave, a quick little aside. You said you lived in Chinatown. Do you remember the record store that's in Chinatown? Down that, it's like a little alley.
There's Fantan Alley.
Yeah, that's probably where the record store was. I can't remember.
Yeah, I do recall that.
Yeah.
It wasn't very accessible.
Yeah, no, it's pretty tight once you get in there.
Had a so-called ramp. That's about a 90-degree angle.
No,
about a foot high. I think I did get in there, but all I could do was get inside the door.
No, the reason I asked is that's where I got my first copy of All Things Must Pass.
Oh.
Yeah, so that record store always has a special place in my heart, for sure.
Oh, that's cool.
The early Derek and the Dominoes there backing up George Harrison.
Yeah, and Peter Frampton playing a lot of the lead.
Not as much as he claims, apparently. That all kind of got dropped out of the wash a couple of months ago.
Somebody really?
Yeah, somebody came over the top and was like, Peter didn't play on that song.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I guess, okay. I'll have to check into that. So, Simon, talking to you.
In case you're watching, Peter, let us know.
Yeah, exactly. Peter, if you're there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Simon, being on the Sunshine Coast, how would you say, the kind of performance scene is like on the Sunshine Coast versus on when you played shows on the island?
Well, I'm a lot more integrated with the music scene here, having lived here for the last 25 years. So I know a lot more about what's going on. Whereas when I played on the island, I arrived there as a performer and played in certain venues and for certain reasons. So I didn't necessarily interact with other musicians in the city. I showed up there with Joe, and he and I played a duo and a bunch of stuff. And so I didn't really get to see other musicians, except we did do a double bill at the Solstice Cafe with a singer-songwriter named Kaya Frazier. Okay. And that was a fun show. And it was nice because the whole cafe was just one level, and the washroom was super accessible, and it was a really pain-free, accessible experience. And but other than that, the scene up here has always been a pretty kind of healthy balance between singer-songwriter, blues rock, jam band reggae. I think it's your usual melting pot of West Coast vintages that people really enjoy, And everyone knows everyone else. The venues up here to play at seem to be on rotation a lot of times. The hardcore places that have always championed music have been like the Royal Canadian Legions, and there have been a couple of pubs on the coast. Because for the listeners out there that don't know the Sunshine Coast is basically just a smattering of hamlets all the way up to between the ferry that lands in Langdale and the ferry that takes off to go to Powell River. You just have these little hamlets along the highway, and the first hamlet's Gibson's, where the Beachcombers were filmed, and then you get other little places. So each little hamlet has their cafe or their pub or their Legion that actually hosts a lot of music, or a community hall. So those are the limits of the venues up here. It's not you can downtown Victoria. I'm sure if you have an acoustic guitar and a microphone, you could probably play at a million different places down there, right? So it's not necessarily the same traffic that you would get on the island in terms of independent music. But it was great. After my accident, a bar that I used to play at quite regularly up in Garden Bay, they had a really good Sunday jam scene up there that was frequented by a lot of great players from Vancouver. And the owner of that bar actually installed an accessible washroom outside so that I could go back up there and play again and have and so it would be moderately accessible for me. I'll tell you right now, it wasn't like great accessibility, but it was a gesture that meant a ton to me at the time,
And sorry, just following up with that as well, when you've been playing on the island, has it been primarily with you and Joe, or has it been with your band, or?
No, it's always been the duo, the Stanton Parody duo. We played we've done festivals, and we've done some performances for Brain Injury Canada. And once Kara read at the library there, and Joe and I played some music for that presentation, and at a festival and at a pub and at the folk club, which is not very accessible. It is one of those places where you need a team of chirpas to kind of get you up in the back door and go through the kitchen out to where you're going to play.
Now
where was it that Rolf and I played there a couple of times, and once I know we ended up jamming with you at the end of the show, you and Joe. Was that that was in Seale?
Oh, that was at the Arts Center in Seale as part of the
that's right,
the arts festival going on the coast.
Yeah.
That's right.
That was a lot of fun.
That was great, man. You guys put on a great show.
We did have a question from Julia. And she asked, has everyone, or Dave or Simon, have you ever played at Pagliacci's?
Where is that again? I know I've been there. I don't think what kind of stuff I was playing would fit in there. Pretty sure not.
Oh, hi, this is Julia. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So just so you know, I'm visually impaired, so I'm not always thinking about accessibility from the point of view of wheelchair. So when I asked that, I don't think I was thinking through whether or not that would be accessible for a wheelchair. But it's a restaurant in Victoria, and for all the years that I was working there, and I know that ever since, they've had live music there like 4 or 5 nights a week. Nice. And it was always jazz, or they had, I don't know if anybody ever heard of a group called the Balkan Jam, or they did some swing, and like just really fun, usually 2, 3, 4 people most, but it had that very much like a sort of New York jazz joint kind of atmosphere. And when I worked there, of course, they were still smoking, so it was a really authentic experience. But I just thought in Victoria, that's that was definitely a source of gigs for people.
Cool. Judging by the name when it was said, Julia, I thought, I don't know if I played there, but I might have ordered a chicken parmesan to go from there.
It was definitely a pasta joint. Yeah.
Nice.
No, I would imagine maybe Joe would have probably played there if it was a jazz club.
Well, the thing is that Howie and David Seale owned the place, and they actually were big fans of jazz and blues, and they brought Etta James up to play for free at Beacon Hill Park in like 1988. Wow. So I'm showing you my age here, but that they always supported local musicians and the local community, musical community.
Yeah, which part of town is it in? I'm just trying to place it with. I know Joe played at Herman's a lot.
Yeah, so that's Dixieland place, right?
Yeah, well, they did a lot of. I mean, he's played with big band there and quartets, and and obviously he's played in the what's the theater at the high school out towards Oak Bay High, I guess.
Yeah. So Pagliacci's, it was on Broad Street there by what was the Eaton Center. And it had a sign out front with the big, the clown with the drum from the opera Pagliacci,
Yeah.
And it was a pretty hip place with, usually a lineup out the door.
Well, I know there was a place down there that we played once that was upstairs.
No,
I
that's
don't know if they had another venue upstairs, because that was another place I had to get carried up.
Yeah.
And
No, this was always the ground floor. And what was really cool, I mean, I was waiting tables at the time. So it was a full, like, it was a small place, but at around 8:30, we'd go up to people sitting in the window who, you know, were eating their dinner and say, sorry, we got to move your table. And then we just like pull all the tables back out of the area by the front window and like squish them all together, and then the band would set up. So the band would be playing right in the window there. So it was definitely noticeable, but it would have been accessible for a wheelchair, not to use the bathrooms or anything like that, but you could certainly get in there. Anyway, I was just curious, that's all. Going down memory lane.
So you actually kind of brought up accessibility at the end there, and I know it's kind of been mentioned here and there throughout this conversation so far. So Simon and Dave, what are your thoughts on like the accessibility of different venues on the island?
Well,
Simon?
I was going to say, it's been, it's a sliding scale, right? Sometimes you show up at a place and you're like pleasantly surprised to see that there's been a little bit of infrastructure thought put into making it accessible. And then there are other places, like Joe and I played at a festival on Salt Spring Island. And the people who were organizing this festival lost the site they were supposed to do the festival on like 2 weeks before the festival was set to happen. So everyone was already en route to this thing, and it was called the Garlic Festival, and it was run for a few days. And Joe and I showed up, and basically the venue got switched to a fallow farmer's field that had huge holes in it from like groundhogs. And the stage that Joe and I had to play on was at the bottom of like a 60-degree ravine. And it was just this crazy circus of trying to get me across the field to go see an act or to go play at a stage. It was this never-ending sort of, saga of, okay, how do we get the wheelchair over by that tree? It was, so it was pretty humbling dealing with that. Also, the one motel on Salt Spring Island claims to have an accessible room, and it's actually not very accessible. It's token accessibility kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's mixed there as it is here. I think whenever we were trying to book a gig, we would look for something that was accessible. If we were playing in a pub, now for me, from the wheelchair perspective, didn't mean you had access to a bathroom, and I might have to go next door, or I got to go home for half an hour. I'll be back during the break. But it's just kind of a constant. I haven't really been over there playing in any sense since I moved, so I don't know. Other than going to see Joe's, I think Joe has come up more in this conversation with both Simon and me. I'm talking about Joe Coughlin.
Okay.
You're talking about Joe Stanton.
That's right. Thank you for the Joe definitions. I was thinking that myself, actually, just as you started speaking. I was like, oh man, we're going to have to clear the Joe air.
Yeah, well, I'm actually drinking a cup of Joe too, so I'm not quite sure how to quit joking around.
No.
Yeah, it's mixed. I mean, like I said, at least with Bobbie Rose, we played quite a few farmers markets, and that band was much more inclusive and sensitive to those kinds of issues. So we weren't very often faced with any access problems.
Nice.
And I also played in the church band for a little while. It was the brother-in-law or son-in-law of a good friend of mine, piano player, keyboards in general. And he asked me to sit in on a rehearsal. It was kind of a big band, and they did all these gospel tunes and
nice.
Had various things. And it was actually fun, and the churches were as far as I can recall, they were always accessible, and you had a pretty captive audience. So yeah, that was fun. I was when I was doing my master's, I was still working full time and playing in 3 bands. So I just think of that time, 4 or 5 years, of one of the craziest few years of my life, really. Disconnect the cable. Don't expect any breaks. Yeah. You know, when you get a break, it's gravy, but I couldn't do that anymore.
Kind of a follow-up to the accessibility question. We've talked about this in the past, how kind of the main want from the community is more accessible washrooms at venues. I think that's a pretty common want, but is there something more music specific at these venues that you think could be improved on in terms of accessibility?
Well, access to the stage, if there is a stage. Yeah, that probably happened quite a lot too, that I'd be lifted onto the stage. But yeah, I'm just sort of scouring my memory, trying to find situations where I just think for the most part, we looked for places without a raised stage. You know, that's kind of what we did. And playing outdoors, I mean, we had good rehearsal space that was kind of contributed by other organizations, especially for Bobbie Roads. I can't remember what the arrangement was, but we had a very good space to practice. A small room, but that's part of the challenge too, is finding an accessible place to set up and have dedicated space too.
Yourself, Simon, any kind of thoughts on that?
I'm with Dave. I think the biggest part is having the accessibility extended to whatever the stage situation is. Here on the coast, there was a Legion in Gibson's where I was playing quite a bit after I landed in the chair, and they actually purchased a ramp to throw up on top of the stage so that I could get a push. It wasn't a great, it wasn't like a legal incline, but it would get me on the stage easily enough with a little elbow grease from the kindness of strangers, Because other than that, there's a big hall in Roberts Creek here as well, and its stage is actually like 4 feet off the ground, and the staircase is like narrow and spirals up onto the stage like a theater stage in a cafeteria at a public school or something like that kind of arrangement. And it's always been a nightmare whenever I have to play there, because it's just sketchy for whoever's involved getting me from the floor up on the stage. And at a certain point, you're kind of like, this is the scariest ride at the fair. I didn't really want to buy tickets for this, so.
Yeah, well, it's dangerous for everyone involved.
Yeah.
For yourself and for people lifting you up. Yeah.
I've always thought that it would be great. A friend of mine had a party here on his deck, which was quite high up, and he worked for the transit authority here on the Sunshine Coast. And he actually took a wheelchair lift off of a bus and actually installed it so that it would actually get me up onto his deck. And it was just this like temporary install. And I always thought those little things, or the little glass ones that you see in multi-level dining areas, where you can just wheel in and go up a level of stairs and not have to worry about it. If those things were more readily available and didn't cost too much, they'd be a great way to add on to an already existing stage that's predominantly high off the ground,
Simon, what's the weirdest, oddest, however you want to call it, place that you've played? What comes to mind?
I played in Vancouver with a friend of mine named Joe Denham, who had thrown together this marvelous band. It's where I met Paul Rigby, was recording that record. And the drummer for, why am I blanking on his name right now? Great jazz drummer, jazz progressive pop drummer who played on that album as well. And Sky Brooks. Yeah. And it was this place where only like new hip singer-songwriter stuff happens in Vancouver. And we got there and they told me it was kind of accessible. And we got there and all they had mentioned was that there were 4 concrete steps up to the building. But once you got into the building, there were 2 flights of stairs going to the level that you had to play on. They never made a mention of that at all. And so once again, it was like I was, the king of Siam while 4 guys like trucked me up the stairs. And then the washroom at the top of the stairs, you go into they were like, the washroom's accessible, and it's true, you could get in the first door, but it was one of those old school washrooms where the toilet wasn't accessible because it was wooded off in a cubicle, and the cubicle door was like this big, anyway, it was very sketchy. Getting up and down that night there was kind of crazy. I was worried for my life on that trip as well.
Was that the China Cloud, Simon?
That's it, the China Cloud gig, that's right.
I've seen Sky with his band perform there.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was a cool environment to play.
Sorry.
Oops.
I destabilized. Massive Spasm.
Yeah.
That'd be a great band name. Massive Spasm. That should be, we should form an improv troupe and call it Massive Spasm. That'd be great.
We're way ahead of you on that.
Yeah, but that's the name of the cover group that Bryden, Dave, and I are in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You should do like a long jam and call it, autonomic dysreflexia or something.
Oh, yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today. I think maybe just before we get offline here, Dave and Simon, maybe you could tell our listeners where they can find some of your music online.
I don't know. I think mainly at vams.org for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny because Joe mentioned a song that he found on the VAMS cloud. I don't really know where that is. It was the one that this kind of instrumental ambient thing that I did for the first CD called Life During God.
Okay.
And I think I've got a couple other. I don't have a lot of my own music, but there's a few things out there. YouTube.
Yeah, that could be on the Bandcamp page, possibly.
Yeah.
For me, I got a few CDs up on a CD Baby and whoever their Handshake affiliates are. So I'm not sure where else you'd find it, but the duo I had with Joe Stanton, our record is up there, and I have a couple of solo CDs with bands that I've done. One of them engineered by Mr. Graham Wyman, so check it out.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us here today. And if you have any questions, I will put my name in the chat, or my email in the chat, so you can reach out to me directly, or you can reach me or find my contact information at vams.org. But again, Dave and Simon, thank you for joining us today. And just also want to give a shout out to our techs, Sasha and Angela. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Today. Thank you all.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, you too.